What's up, guys? This is Matt, and you're watching TV Punch for Wednesday, October 28th. And today I'm going to be talking about Arrow Season 4, Episode 4, titled Beyond Redemption. As usual, I'm going to run through some quick hits, just some cool things that I noticed, and then run through the major plot points of this episode. So with that said, be careful for spoilers. If you haven't watched the episode yet, pause this, go watch it, come back. You'll be glad you did. But I'm going to run through just a few quick hits. The first one being near the beginning of the episode, Team Arrow's reaction to Oliver running for mayor. They weren't super supportive, but they weren't against it either. They were just thinking, yeah, okay, sure, Oliver, that's, how do you think you're going to do this, and how do you plan on doing it? But that was a really funny moment. I liked seeing that. I liked the camaraderie there. We get a nice shout out to Neil Adams. Of course, he's a legendary artist with both Marvel and DC. Had a great run on Green Arrow and Green Lantern. Curtis Holt's trying to figure out who Green Arrow really is, and he mentions a Palmer Tech employee named Neil Adams. Always love a shout out, little Easter egg like that to the comics. We get 2 canary cries in one episode. That was awesome, especially when the first one was neutralized by some type of sonic gun. I'm not sure what it was, but then later she changes frequencies and uses it again, and I really wish she would use it more because that's pretty neat, the way they pull that off. Captain Lance was on fire this episode. He had a lot of great zingers, most of them at Oliver's expense. At one point, after Oliver tells Lance that he's running for mayor, Lance says, well, if the same thing happens to you that happens to the last 3 mayors, I hope you won by a landslide. I thought that was pretty funny. Oliver walks in later. Lance says, what, are you going to tell me you're running for president now? I thought that was pretty funny. And then when he is with Team Arrow, fighting the corrupt cops, which we'll talk about in a minute, he says, what, I don't get a fancy code name just like you guys? So funny stuff from Lance all around, plus some really powerful scenes that we'll get to in a minute as well. So moving on to the major plot points in this episode, there's quite a few of them. This could probably be another 4-hour episode if I really wanted it to be, so I'm going to try to hit these at a high level. But the first one is we finally see the new Arrow Cave. We finally see the new lair, or whatever it is that they're calling it. It is under Oliver's campaign headquarters, and it's really cool. Felicity mentions that Cisco helped build it. There's a few glitches. The power and everything keeps flickering every now and then, but Oliver says when he first came back to Starling City at the time, he just needed the foundry because it was just him, but now that they're all there, he needs a space that's a little bit bigger. It's a great set, it's a great lair, and I can't wait to see them be in it more. Moving on, we've got Laurel telling Captain Lance about Sarah and showing her to him as well. So she's got her chained up, I think, in the basement of her apartment building, kind of like a pet, which was a little bit weird. She's bringing her food and everything. But it was nice to see this because Laurel did mention that she said, Dad, I promise that I won't keep secrets from you anymore, especially when it involves our family. And she's adhering to that promise. So that was really nice. Of course, I loved this scene because Lance, just like everybody else, even though his daughter's alive, he's saying, this isn't her. What have you done? That's not my baby girl. And he doesn't know quite what to do with that. He actually goes and seeks help from Damien Dark to sort of figure out. He says, Damien, I know that you know about the Lazarus Pit. I know that you are with the League of Assassins. Can you help me? Damien just says, I can give you advice, father to father. And that was a big clue. And we'll talk about that in just a second. But Damien says, I can offer you advice. Put her down. If it were my daughter, I'd put her down. She doesn't have her soul. And Lance actually does try to do that later. He can't bring himself to do it. But it was nice seeing Laurel actually stay true to her word and not keeping secrets. For once in this show, somebody didn't keep a secret from somebody. That was really cool. But in that scene where Lance is talking to Damien Dark, when he does mention father to father, I was watching Twitter at the time, and everybody was like, oh, there's an Easter egg. He's going to be Felicity's dad. I don't want Damien Dark to be Felicity's dad. I don't want everything to have to be related to everything else. Like I said before, I just want Damien to be a bad dude just to be a bad dude. I don't want him to be related to anything or have any personal ties to anything. I just want him to be a bad guy, running a bad organization, wanting to take down Star City, although that's getting a little bit contrived as well. I want him to do something else that's bad. But so hopefully it doesn't go that route. I think and there's actually an article that I think I saw today that confirmed whether Felicity is or is not his daughter. I didn't read it. I don't want to be spoiled, but I hope that's not what happens. So sort of the main plot of this episode is a band of corrupt cops essentially busting up drug deals, but then taking the paraphernalia for themselves. They say that they're not corrupt, that they're not bad guys. They're just trying to earn a better living for their families. You have Rutina Wesley from True Blood. She is one of the corrupt cops. I actually thought that she was going to play a bigger part in this season, and maybe she will still. But when it was first announced, it made it seem like she was going to play a big part, but the way this episode went, at the end, Lance arrested her. So I don't know if she'll show back up in a prison scene or whatever. The whole point of this subplot of the corrupt cops stealing the drugs and stealing the equipment used by the anti-vigilante task force, the whole point was to serve as a way for Lance to start redeeming himself for the questionable decisions he's made and the questionable actions he's taken against Team Arrow and really just in general. So he actually saves Oliver's life at the end. Rutina Wesley's character has him around the neck. She's going to strangle him. And Lance talks her out of it and arrests her. He had some really powerful scenes. There's a great scene where Oliver sees that Lance is talking to Damien Dark and he confronts him about it. And we get a scene between the two of them that is one of the best scenes between two characters that I've seen in this show maybe ever. They're really kind of going back and forth at each other. Lance really drives home some really powerful emotions about why he did what he did. That Damien Dark, when he first came to town, he seemed like a good guy with resources and he seemed like he wanted to help. And so Lance joined up with him, but it was a couple months later before he really realized what kind of person Damien Dark was, and by then it was too late. He was threatening Laurel, threatening to do stuff to her if Lance didn't stay working with him. Oliver goes right back at him, says, "Don't hide behind your daughters." And I mean, they really go at each other. This was a great scene, and Lance had a couple of those when he went to try to shoot Sarah to put her out of her misery, and he couldn't do it. A lot of great acting, and then his big speech at the end when he does arrest Rutina Wesley's character. I mean, such a great Lance episode. I have been a Lance, I won't say hater, but a Lance disliker for a long time, but he really turned a corner in this episode. He's actually going to keep working with Damien now, but he's going to be working with Team Arrow as an inside man in Damien Dark's organization, so that's going to prove to be some interesting storytelling. We're going to get a really good inside look at Damien's organization at Hive. So I hope that now that Lance is turning a corner, maybe he's the one in the gray, because you start to like him, and right when he redeems himself and you really like him, boom, he dies and he gets put 6 feet under. We'll see what happens with that. There's a little bit in here with Felicity and Curtis Holt, and Felicity is trying to figure out what's going on with her phone. We see that it was acting up on her last week. Of course, we pretty much know at this point that it's Ray trying to send her messages. Curtis realizes that that Ray did something to her phone before he died, and he's looking into it, and Felicity says, "No, I don't want you to. I don't want to see his last words. I don't want to hear his last words." But at the end of the episode, she does log in and she listens to a message from him. So there wasn't a whole lot of that in this episode, but I did want to point it out because that's opening the door for Ray to come back. We've been getting a lot of setup for Legends of Tomorrow with Sarah coming back last week, and with the Captain Cold episode, Flash last week, and then of course the new Firestorm and Flash last night. So they're really ramping up to get ready for Legends of Tomorrow, and this little teaser up for Ray is just another part of that. And then at the end, we get Oliver making a big speech. He announces officially his candidacy for mayor. He holds a press conference, and he makes a really good speech about how he wants to do good for the city, and he almost reflects some of his intro from each episode. So he talks about, after 5 years in hell, I came back and I wanted to save the city. So that's going to be interesting. And he's not running opposed as of right now. So I don't know how much of a campaign that he really needs to run, because there's nobody else running. But I guess they're still going to have an election. So we'll see more of that. We just got a little bit of a taste. Things are really going to kick off now that with that ending speech, with that ending press conference, now the race for mayor is really going to get kicked off. I can't wait to see what happens. I think he's going to win. I'd vote for him, wouldn't you? So those are the biggest plot points that I wanted to touch on. Of course, there was this is another episode that had so much going on. I feel like I didn't cover half of it, but again, I don't want to make this a 4-hour video. So to me, those are the big ticket items. But go watch it. Let me know in the comments below if I missed anything, or if there's something else that's major that I didn't talk about that you really want to talk about. Put that down below. And while you're doing that, be sure to subscribe by clicking the button below. You can check this out on youtube.com/nerdpunch if if you aren't watching it on YouTube right now. Of course, you can also follow us on Twitter and Facebook. Both of those are at nerdpunch. And you can check us out at nerdpunch.com, where we are posting other cool things that we find online. It's a great place to check our schedule for upcoming videos as well. We've got several. We've got a couple of Walking Dead videos coming. Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. I've got to catch up on. I got some comic reviews. Today was New Comic Book Day, and there's more cool stuff there. So still lots more content. I've got to go update the schedule for all of that. But yeah, that's it, guys. So thanks for watching, and until next time, I'll talk to you later. See ya.